It's time now for Back Pages tonight here on Sky Sports News, bringing you a first look at these sports stories in the morning's newspapers. And joining us are Martin Ziegler from The Times and The Sun's Jack Rosser. Welcome along, chats. We'll hear from you briefly, but we'll quickly run through the back pages first. And here's how they look. The fallout to Saturday's defeat against Chelsea continues as Thomas Frank urges Spurs fans to hold the boos and carry the team forwards. They also report on Trent Alexander-Arnold's return to Anfield on Tuesday night, plus an exclusive interview with Mark Wood, who claims that he is ready for the Ashes. He's been out injured for a long time, hasn't he, Mark Wood? He's got that express pace that England desperately need. More Frank quotes in the Metro, plus news of a potential injury blow for Arsenal striker Viktor Gyokeres. He'll not play in this week's Champions League match against Slavia Prague. It's set to be an interesting return to Anfield for Trent Alexander-Arnold as his Real Madrid side play Liverpool in the Champions League. But what kind of reception will he get? That's discussed in Jack's paper, The Sun. Poignant picture of Trent paying his respects to former teammate Diogo Jota in the Telegraph as he laid flowers by his memorial on Monday night. They also report on police bringing in 700 officers for Aston Villa's match against Maccabi Tel Aviv. The Eye also say that Sunderland show granite after they came from 1-0 down to draw with Everton. Xhaka scoring their equaliser, and the Black Cats are up to 4th in the table. Right, welcome once again to Martin and to Jack. We're going to talk Tottenham Hotspur and Thomas Frank, admittedly also Jed Spence and Mickey van der Ven, and what happened at full time in Tottenham's 1-0 defeat to Chelsea at home. Chelsea really have the wood on Spurs at the moment, and particularly at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium as well. Martin, if I can come to you first. This is the Guardian, and we can see it there at the bottom. We need a bit of help. Frank urges Spurs fans to hold boos and carry team forwards. Before we get to the boos, though, I just wonder on the snub itself. I'm sure you might have seen the footage as well. It's quite clear. Jed Spence and Mickey van der Ven don't want to speak to Thomas Frank, let alone listen to him to go and then applaud the home fans. How concerning is that in the first place, or is it just heat at the moment, one of those things that happens, especially now that we've had the apology?
I think it's more a reaction of the players to the boos. So it's perhaps less of a snubbing the manager, although they have apologised, and more, they were so disgusted by the reception they got. I mean, Spurs are 6th in the table. It's not as though they're in the bottom 3. That they, I think they just thought, yeah, the manager wants us to go and applaud the fans anyway, but they're booing us. We're not going to do it. It's a bit of an issue, but I think the fact that they've come forward and apologised and perhaps explained that in the heat of the moment they just felt that it's not something they wanted to do. I think that'll be perhaps the end of it. I mean, the only interesting thing now is how the Tottenham fans will react to those players the next time they do play at the stadium.
Let's go to the back page of the Metro to get further analysis on this story. And you can see there a Frank apology. Yes, so I mean, I think it was kind of handy, wasn't it, Jack, that he got this apology from the players because he knew that he was going to answer questions on this ahead of Tottenham against Copenhagen in the Champions League. But, OK, he might have dealt with this OK, but generally Tottenham as a whole right now, especially at home, 3 wins in 19 in the Premier League at their home ground. What do you make of it under Thomas Frank so far?
Yes, it's not a very happy place. I was at the game on Saturday, and you can see both sides of the snub. Really, it's something that Frank has always done. He did it his whole time at Brentford. That regardless of the result, they would do a lap of the pitch, applauding the fans that were there. There weren't many fans left to applaud at Spurs on Saturday, and I always get a bit frustrated. You go to so many games now, and every game almost at half-time, if one team's leading, there's boos from somewhere, and it's just become something that is a fixture of every game. But there was definitely nothing to cheer for the Spurs fans in that game against Chelsea. They were so laboured, so poor on the ball. There was nothing to get fans off their seat and cheering in terms of playing forwards quickly. And there's a few comments that sort of this is them getting used to Thomas Frank style football, but I really don't think it is. I don't think his Brentford team's ever played such pedestrian football with that little directness or confidence. There was a lot of sideways passing and going backwards and turning down chances to shoot. And it doesn't feel like they're comfortable at home at the moment. They always felt a bit unnerved, I suppose, at home under Ange Postecoglou the last couple of years. You never really knew if they'd be able to get a lead and sit on it the way they relentlessly kept playing in his far more attacking style. And now there's worries, I suppose, about whether they can go and get that lead. They certainly didn't create much outside of set pieces at the weekend, and they've got two big home games coming up. Obviously, this one in the Champions League, and then Manchester United to follow that. So if they can find some form again, they're obviously missing attacking players. Kulusevski's not there. James Maddison's out for a long time. Kolo Muani certainly hasn't settled yet, and Solanke's absent. So there's a lot to come back in for Spurs, and a lot that they can sort of hang the hopes on in terms of things getting better. But it's in terms of getting fans excited and behind them, it's starting from a low base.
Let's continue on the theme of boos. We saw in the last few games that Trent Alexander-Arnold played for Liverpool that he was roundly booed by his home support. In the back page of The Sun, Liverpool versus Real Madrid, prepare to cop it, Trent. Slot, I'll welcome him, but let's see about the fans. What are we expecting at Anfield, Martin? A cacophony of boos, or maybe something a little friendlier?
I think it may turn out to be mixed. I mean, there was an outbreak of quite large scale booing towards the end of his time there, but actually not in the final match that he played at Anfield. I think there'd been a bit of a change of heart by some of the fans, and yes, they didn't like how he left, but they thought let's not just end it like this. So I think when he returns, I'm sure there will be some people who feel very strongly the fact that he feel like he sort of deserted the club where he grew up. But I also think other people will give him a warm welcome, and I think what Slot has said. I mean, he's not appealed to the fans to do that. Interestingly, but I think what he said at least sets the stage for those fans who do want to show the better side of Liverpool and welcome back one of their own. That they will have that opportunity, but I'm sure it'll be a bit mixed.
And also remember that Trent Alexander-Arnold has already been to Anfield. And that's because he was laying flowers. This is in the Daily Telegraph. You can see the picture of Trent's Jota tribute, as they call it, an emotional homecoming. I mean, it's good, isn't it, that obviously he's recognised the poignancy of that story, that he played with Jota for a number of years, and he's choosing to mark his return to Anfield with, a gesture like this, Jack.
Yeah, and it's nothing more than you'd expect from a player, a person like Trent Alexander-Arnold. He's been brought up at that football club since a young man. He's 27 now. He's been brought up in the way of doing things properly. It's a thing that he will have wanted to go out and do, and to pay his respects to somebody that was an incredibly popular figure within the Liverpool dressing room, and someone that was so close with a number of players there and achieved an awful lot in a footballing sense with Trent Alexander-Arnold, but was a huge part of his life off the pitch as well, I'm sure. And it's good of Xabi Alonso to join him and mark that moment, as well as somebody that was a big figure at Liverpool during his playing career. And you never know whether that will impact the reception that Trent gets tomorrow night, as well as this, since the end of last season when he was getting those boos. I think Jurgen Klopp came out and spoke quite directly and said he was really not happy to see it, something that wasn't, like Martin said, the good side of Liverpool. So I'm sure, especially given he's not made the best start, he's been struggling with injury at Real Madrid and not been able to pull up any trees there yet. There may be a couple of jibes towards that, but you would hope that common sense takes over and there's a warmer welcome back from the majority of Anfield.
Let's talk about another of the Champions League ties, and that's Arsenal's trip to Slavia Prague. And we know that they will go there without the option to pick Viktor Gyokeres. In the Metro, they say Gyokeres doubt. We know that he has been ruled out, by the way. Has gone as lacking firepower. Martin, I mean, this feels like it's an area where it could be critical for Arsenal, and they've got a few players out in forward positions. And of course, Gyokeres is a man they paid an awful lot of money for in the summer, who they rely upon. This is not ideal, is it, for Mikel Arteta? Not just with this game, which they should win, obviously, given the opposition, but also the trip to Sunderland at the weekend.
Yeah, they've got Kai Havertz out, Gabriel Jesus out, and now Gyokeres. which is I think Arteta sounded really worried about it. I thought, but maybe it's just the uncertainty he's worried about. I mean, it's not. He hasn't scored a hatful of goals recently, but he has been really important to how Arsenal have been setting up. I mean, he played a brilliant ball, a kind of half an assist in their last match, and although he didn't hasn't been scoring for fun. The way they are playing now, I think, is really important to them. He's the sort of driving figurehead that they've perhaps not had for some years. So how are they going to? I mean, they played without a sort of proper striker, as it were, last season, and they did okay, but it was always something you felt was missing. So I think there'll be a lot of worried faces in that Arsenal coaches' room waiting to hear the outcome scans.
And in terms of how they replace him, Jack, we know that Mikel Merino has deputised in that position before. And also Leandro Trossard has played more centrally. What would you do against Slavia Prague? And is there a real concern, or do they have enough that if they could just get through a couple of games, then players might start returning?
Yeah, I think Mikel Merino is a fantastic option, really, given the way he stepped in. None of us expected it towards the end of last season, the way he stepped in and performed that role fantastically. I mean, as Martin said, he's not been scoring bucket loads of goals. You only need to find someone that's been finishing from about 2 yards out whenever he's managed to get on the score sheet. And Merino will have that figurehead presence, I suppose, in terms of the physical side of the game of being able to occupy defenders, which Gyokeres has been doing, and making space with his runs and his movement for those players behind him. If Merino can replicate that and maybe chip in with a couple of goals for however many games, we don't know at the moment. We've obviously got an international break coming up as well, and it looks like Odegaard isn't too far from returning. Arsenal have definitely improved their depth. Obviously, it's been cut short a fair bit up top, as Martin mentioned. There's no Kai Havertz, there's no Gabriel Jesus to come in, but Merino can go in there. And I think, given the way Arsenal have been performing this season, there'll be the confidence that they can definitely keep moving forward and take these sort of blows on the chin and continue to pick up good results. And you'd be far more worried if it was a Gabriel or Saliba that was picking up this injury, because while they do have depth back there, I don't think they've got anyone quite on the level of those two. The same could be said for Declan Rice, Martin Zubimendi in the middle. So while it's a frustration to lose Gyokeres, the man that was supposed to be the final piece of the jigsaw, especially if it is for more than a couple of games, I think they've got it in them to survive.
Yeah, very strong core, isn't it? 7 straight clean sheets in all competitions for Arsenal. OK, thank you for the moment, chaps. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll look at more of the stories in the morning's papers, including Martin's tale in the Times. England set to go on the road at a home Euros. We'll see you in a couple of minutes. You're watching Back Pages tonight. Welcome back to you at home. Welcome back to Martin Ziegler from The Times. Welcome back to Jack Rosser from The Sun. OK, let's go to the Eye and look at the Monday Night Football, because it was a 1-1 draw between Sunderland and Everton. Sunderland still unbeaten at home. You can see a picture there of Granit Xhaka sliding on his knees in celebration after earning a point. And he is a man who is just completely reborn at Sunderland. I know that he played obviously well with Bayer Leverkusen, Jack, but he's a man who really seems the fulcrum of this Sunderland side in that midfield. Absolutely, and not just the way he plays, but obviously the way he trains. I think I saw his interview on Monday Night Football afterwards, criticising their last training session before the game and saying it wasn't their best one, and that's how they started the game, obviously going a goal down, and showed the fight and resilience to get back into the game and really get back on top of Everton and obviously get his equaliser early in the second half. I was so impressed. I saw their win at Chelsea the weekend before last and was not just impressed with everyone, but particularly with Granit Xhaka, the way he not only keeps everyone going, obviously talking, keeping on players, a lot of young players around him as well. There's been a lot of discussion that Chelsea have got a very, very young squad, but I think Sunderland's is on average only a year older, and he kept all of them together and going right until the end, and they obviously stole that 93rd minute winner. It wasn't just that, it was the quality on the ball that we knew he had from Arsenal, but a bit of time away from the Premier League, away from the spotlight of every week a bit much. You never know quite how he's going to come back, and
so many classy moments on the ball and just positioning and keeping Sunderland going forward. He's been so impressive, and so have all of them. Their ambition in terms of how they've recruited coming up. There's a few players there that a number of more established Premier League clubs will be wondering how they didn't quite pick up on those deals and how they've not bought players like that in and left the promoted club to do it. But it's been a fantastic start to the season, and the fans will be wondering where it can go and how long they can keep it up.
And staying with you, Jack, in your paper, Jacques gives them what for is the headline right at the top. And they are fourth in the Premier League right now. Look, I mean, it would be extraordinary if they could stay there. There's likely to be a correction. But what would represent sort of success for Reggie Lebris and for Sunderland this season?
But I still think that success, if you're a promoted club, is staying up. Obviously, the way they've started and flown out of the traps, they will be looking to greater ambitions now and seeing if they can finish in the top half. I know from speaking to people that were moving players into that club in the summer that the ambition when they got promoted was to have a real crack at the top half. So if they can do that, that would be an absolutely incredible first season back in the Premier League. But Reggie Lebris, speaking after these big results, has been saying that 40 points is the first marker, and it does look like it will take a bit more from these promoted clubs to stay up in terms of the points tally than we've seen the last couple of years when those promoted clubs have been so disappointing. So they'll be dreaming of Europe and things like that at the moment, but just staying up would be fantastic. And if they can hit that top 10, which you never know, we're a quarter of the way into the season now and they're in that top 4, then what an incredible return that would be for them.
Yeah, it's a very, very congested Premier League table, though, I think it's fair to say right now. OK, let's go to the Daily Telegraph. And this story for you, Martin, police to bring in 700 officers for Villa match. Look, we know that Villa against Maccabi Tel Aviv was, a story that we'd heard that, first of all, there was likely to be disrupted by pro-Palestinian protests, but also that, Maccabi Tel Aviv ended up refusing the away allocation because of fear, of safety for their own supporters. But nevertheless, despite that, it's still a very sensitive situation, hence this police presence. I wonder if you can just give us your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably not surprising because it has now become the sort of focus for we're not talking about extremist fans or troublemakers amongst the supporters. This has now become a sort of political focus. So, we're going to have anti-Israeli protests from one set of group. I think there's going to be pro-Israel activists as well there, and there's even perhaps going to be far-right. We've seen Tommy Robinson saying that he's going to come along and support Maccabi Tel Aviv and perhaps do a demonstration outside the ground. So I think there's, this potential flashpoint. Obviously, there's a huge risk of that. So that is why there's this enormous police operation being planned, 700 officers. We know that the Home Office have said that they will help with extra numbers of officers because West Midlands Police, they were sort of worried about how they were going to cope. We're going to have drones monitoring everything. It's going to be a really huge operation, and obviously we hope it goes off without any serious problems. But there is always that threat, and it's we've seen local MPs, for example, saying that the match shouldn't even take place there. So feelings are running really high in Birmingham around this, and it could get ugly. Let's hope that this huge police presence can stop that happening.
I'd like to stay with you, Martin, and talk to you about your piece in The Times, your paper, England to go on road at home Euros. So, yeah, we're used to England playing at Wembley, Euro 96, 1966 World Cup, also in the pan-European Euros that we had in 2021. But it looks like they're going to go on a little bit of a tour, at least, if they get through their group, which you expect them to, Martin.
Yeah, so 2 of the 3 group matches will be at Wembley, but the third will be somewhere else in England. UEFA will announce that next week. And if they get through, there are no last 16 games at Wembley. I think because of the demands on the pitch, they're holding both semi-finals and the final there. Then that means that the last 16 game as well will not be at Wembley. So, yes, this will be a change of it'll be unprecedented hosting major tournaments in England. As you say, all the matches in 66 and Euro 96 and 2021 all took place at Wembley involving England. So I think it's quite fun, though, if you're one of those cities, Everton's new stadium, the Etihad in Manchester, St James's Park, Villa Park, the Tottenham Stadium. If one of those gets England, I mean, that would be great for that venue too, and people living there, especially if it's in a northern city. Don't often get the chance to see England in a major tournament, haven't had before. That could be really exciting.
Yeah, Jack, on that, I mean, it is great, isn't it? To not make it so Wembley-centric, so London-centric, just spread the excitement of a major tournament elsewhere in England?
Yeah, I think it is very good for the fans, especially. You would hope that it being the one game that's away from Wembley, they don't take it to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and keep it in London. It would be nice for fans that maybe can't travel down south, whether it's the train cost or working hours or any other commitments. You would like them to be able to get the chance to go to a game in a major tournament closer to home. England travel around a fair bit at times for qualifiers or friendlies, and there's always a good atmosphere around those games. But to see a major tournament game on your doorstep with it involving England would be a fantastic thing for those fans, especially up north. And I think it's something, I was having a look earlier, I think Germany played a couple of games in Stuttgart last summer when they were hosting the Euros, but travelled around for the majority of their games. And a big nation, a nation that has designs on winning the tournament, should be able to cope with playing away from their home stadium in one or two of these games across an entire tournament. And it's a nice thing for people around the country to be able to see. So I'm sure England would prefer to be at Wembley, where they know their routines, they know exactly what they're doing, but I'm sure also they're more than capable of playing one game in Liverpool or Newcastle or somewhere like that.
Let's finish off with a little bit of cricket. We've got about a couple of minutes left, guys. So, Martin, looking in The Guardian, interview with Mark Wood on his return to fitness for an era-defining Ashes series. I can't wait, I'm ready, he says. Obviously, he's been out for a while now. We know he's got this express pace. Hopefully, after his injury, he'll still have it. We start off in Perth, of course, and we know that is the home of pace and bounce. How vital do you think he will be? And what about this approach of hostility, pace, bounce? Is that the right way to go?
I think it's the only way to go, to be honest. And yeah, having Mark Wood back, and if he can be firing on all cylinders, that would be a massive boost for England's chances. I mean, we know it's been really, really difficult down in Australia, and it's vital that first match that they get a good start. It's so disheartening if England get beaten easily, and then it's uphill all the way, and all the difficulties playing the other side of the world, hostile away support for England to experience. I think if you can have that aggression, if you can really take it to the Australians, put them on the back foot, I think that is basically England's best hope of getting a good start and actually giving themselves a fighting chance of getting the Ashes.
Jack, very quickly, what do you think is going to happen in the Ashes this winter?
I hesitate to call it. My main concern, I think it's a fantastic interview in The Guardian. Donald mentions it in there. The bowlers are ferocious, but they are fragile. So I think if they can keep themselves together, the injuries stay away, then England have got the best chance they've had for a very long time. But I will be nervously waking up every morning to see what's happened.
Oh, you and me both, Jack. You and me both. We're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed, Martin. Thank you very much, Jack. If you missed the show, another chance to be Back Pages tonight at hour. Show also available as a podcast. Just download Back Pages, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts.